Okay, let us. Okay, we will proceed with our second session, like second section of Bhagavad Gita, like which is chapter 7 to chapter 12, and this is our third session of third overview session. Um, here, like in this chapter, let me explain the flow of Bhagavad Gita. So here, so knowledge of the absolute. After Krishna explained that Dhyana Yoga, Krishna says, among all yogis, Bhakta, a person who is my devotee, like a yogi who is a devotee is the best among all yogis. So then Krishna starts explaining the Bhakti Yoga process. Mm. So knowledge of the absolute, he explains about the knowledge of the absolute here. Hearing reveals a knowledge about Krishna's material and spiritual energies. Mm. So and also explains about different types of personalities, like how uh, uh, like for what type of people worship him and what type of people don't worship him. He explained this, and at so in Krishna explains in 7.29. I mean, in this at the end of the chapter, Krishna mentions several items starting from Brahman. Mm. So this will lead then Arjuna at the in the eighth chapter starts with Arjuna asking different questions about what is Brahman and like different questions. What is Ruti activists like that. Hmm? And then Krishna went and explains about explains the questions, all these questions, answers all these questions. He say like whoever remember Krishna at the time of death attain himself. Jnanis, yogis attain path of liberation by the light of by the light of Krama Yoga, and comes back to this world. But Bhakti quits the material world full of miseries and attains Krishna's spiritual abode. So, having described all these questions, the answers about Brahman, what is material energy, and how one should remember Krishna at the time of death, and how a devotee attains his spiritual abode, then Krishna explains about the like Krishna basically while explaining all the Brahman realization or impersonal liberation and everything, he describes about Ananya Bhakti, means the Bhakti which is uninterrupted and unmotivated, and means like which he is a pure devotee of Krishna. He explains about the pure devotees of pure devotional service, and then after that in the ninth chapter he describes about what is pure bhakti. Mm. So how unintelligent people, the fools, cannot understand Krishna, and but a pure devotee, a devotee who has no motivation in worshipping Krishna, and who no, ahaituki apratihata. That is the nature of Ananya Bhakti. That is the pure devotional service. So whoever does pure devotional service, Krishna is very much favorable to him. That's what he explains in the eighth, ninth chapter. Means why this is called most conventional knowledge, because by this process of bhakti, when one performs this Ananya Bhakti, he can easily attain Krishna. Krishna will become his person. Mm. So and also like basically in this material world, everybody is covered up with Maya, means the modes of ignorance. Like soul is covered by subtle body, and subtle body is covered by gross elements. So, like for one to know his spiritual nature, it is very difficult. But one who does Ananya Bhakti, by the mercy of Krishna, he can know his spiritual nature very easily. Mm. And that's how it is called most conventional, because he can attain the highest thing which is even looked after by the demigods like Brahma and Shiva, and all the demigods and all the great sages, that devotee can easily attain that. And after that Krishna instructed to fix one's mind in him. So in the then Krishna describes his opulences. So in the Ananya Bhakti, what does Krishna mention? A devotee always sees every one is sees everything in Krishna, and sees Krishna in everything. Hmm? sees Krishna in everything, and sees Krishna in everything, and Krishna in sees everything in Krishna. So when he does describe that, just in order to support that, Krishna describes about the opulence of Krishna, means unlimited attributes of Krishna, how he is expanded himself into many things, means whatever anything which is most powerful, and most highest and most perfect in any aspect, that is the potency of Krishna, that is the opulence of Krishna. After explaining all this, uh, he also describes about the universal form. No, universal form is Virat Rupa, because Arjuna requests him to show him the Vishwarupa. Because Arjuna might have heard about this Vishwarupa theoretically. So, but Krishna is in front of him, and Krishna is saying that he is Bhagavan himself. Arjuna asks him, uh, Arjuna asks him if he can, if he think that he is eligible, you can please show him the Virat Rupa. So that then Krishna in the 11th chapter, he shows the universal form. After seeing the universal form, Krishna establishes the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga, and his personal form. So Arjuna inquires about the personalist and impersonalist. After so uh, Krishna shows his all-pervasive nature first, and then Krishna establishes the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is basically a person who serves Krishna in a personal form, right? So Krishna establishes personal form of Krishna is the highest. So then Arjuna asks question, who is greater, impersonalist or personalist? So in order to explain that, Krishna again goes explains about the process of devotional service, which is the highest of all spiritual paths. So thus enables various stages into connect. So a devotee possesses several glorious qualities and endeavor them. So devotional service is the highest of all spiritual paths. Krishna differentiates between the personalist and impersonalist and gives the progressive levels of bhakti that enables people at various stages to connect with Supreme. So a devotee possesses several glorious qualities that endear him to Krishna. So after explaining the personal form, Krishna also explains how a devotee can easily get connected to Krishna in different ways. Like he first says, you fully surrender unto him initially. If you cannot do this, you do this. If you cannot do this, you do this. Means he gives different options by which he can one can progress in the process of devotional service. Hmm? After doing after describing the Bhakti Yoga process, Krishna describes about the Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga means that which involves different knowledge about different aspects of yoga. So that's how this is the flow of from 7th chapter until the 12th chapter, which is wherein the Krishna describes about the Bhakti Yoga process. So in the beginning of the chapter, so the glory of knowledge about Krishna. So hearing reveals the phenomenal numerous knowledge, jnana and vijnana about the Krishna. Realize the knowledge is very rare. So Krishna explains about him, like he explains the knowledge about himself. So what is the advantage of listening to Krishna? Krishna's opulence and Krishna's maya. That we'll see here. Okay. So Krishna says, it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, like Srinvata Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hrudayantastu Avadrani Vidnoti Suhut Satam. Means just by listening the glories of Krishna, the insecurities like in the heart will be vanquished. So, and it will give not only the peace of mind in this when we are here, but also it will enable us to go for higher destinations after this life. So So after Krishna explains what is the importance about hearing him, and Krishna also explains the knowledge of Krishna's energies. So material energy consists of the five elements: earth, water, fire, air elements, and how the spiritual being, he says all this material energy is his external energy, and the living entity is his marginal energy, and there is a spiritual world. So living energy being above the material energy, Krishna says this spiritual entity, that jiva, he actually you what do you call, he is above the material energy. Mm. And how he also explains about how he is the creator and the maintainer and destroyer, and Krishna is all pervasive and essence of everything. And he also explains about the modes of nature. Mm. So we said that, right? Like knowing about Krishna, like in the third verse he says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yadati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvatah. Means out of thousands of men, one among them endeavor for perfection, and among many thousands of the persons who endeavor for perfection, hardly anybody knows Krishna in truth. Means he is explaining the rarity of a devotee. For a person to come into the path of bhakti is very rare, because they may get out of, if they, it is said that, right, if when you are sincere, then only, like, a cheating person will get a cheating guru. Mm. Only when you are sincere, Krishna will direct you to the pure devotee. Means only a sincere person, means who sincerely wants to serve Krishna, only that kind of persons will receive a bona fide spiritual master. So we are very fortunate. We are under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, who is a bona fide spiritual master. And just imagine, out of thousands of people who endure, very few gets the opportunity to know the truth in actual. Hmm. So Krishna expressed about these external energies: earth, water, fire, air, ether, and for intelligence, ego. These are all his external energies. Hmm. And the living entity are his superior energies. Hmm. And who are struggling with the material nature. Means all the jivas who are in this material world are his superior energies, and they are struggling with the three modes of material nature. So the material and spiritual world, for Krishna says, he is the origin and the dissolution, and there is no superior to Krishna, and everything, both spiritual and material, rests upon Krishna, just like pulse rests on the thread, that we already discussed in the previous class. So Krishna says in this chapter, before going to the universal form, he says, I am the light of the sun and moon. And he says, I am the taste in water and the Omkara. This says like that. Sound in ether and the intelligence and the intelligence of the intelligent. So this basically he's explained about his different energies, because in the previous verse he explained about his gross energies, right? In the gross energies, these are like, very like where we can meditate on Krishna. How? By, by seeing the sun. I am the light of the sun and moon, and means he is the essence of everything. Like, what is the essence of sun? Because light and heat. Krishna says, I am that taste of water, and he's Omkara. Like, if you see the process of creation, everything came from the sound. Like, everything came from Omkara. So I am the Omkara, the transcendental sound vibration. I am the sound in the ether, and heat in the fire, and fragrance of the earth. So like, these are the essential factors in the that are taken into consideration, from which the process of creation and this maintenance happen of in this material world. and the essence of the intelligent person is and his intelligence. So, and Krishna says about how he is the penances of the atheist, original seed of existence, power, prowess of the poor, strength of the strong, and sex life, which is not according to the religion, which is not sex life when done according to the religious principles. Hmm? So, so all states of beings are manifested by my energy. I am independent and I'm not under the three modes of material nature. So basically, when we see Krishna is like explaining about all these external energies. External energies are gross, means they are mostly they don't seem to be conscious, but still they seem to be under the modes of nature. But Krishna says, even though they are my energies, I'm independent of them, and still I'm not under the modes of nature. So after that, Krishna says how one can overcome these modes of nature, and it explains about different types of people. A jiva deluded by the modes of nature uh, can transcend. Jiva deluded by the modes of nature can transcend. A jiva can transcend the modes of nature by surrendering to the Krishna. And Krishna also says how different types of people who surrender to him, and also it says different types of people who doesn't surrender to him, and those who surrender. And there are also in when we say surrender to him, there are different types of people who surrender instead of surrendering to Krishna. Like if you get a problem, you have to go to a doctor. Instead of going to the uh, original doctor, you go to some what do you call cheap doctor, means like who gives temporary reliefs like that. So those who surrender to Krishna are magnanimous and gyanis, best among them pure devotees of. So he also explains about like some confused people who goes to demigods. So here sorry, this slide is misplaced actually. So Krishna said that, right? If one needs, if one can transcend the modes of nature by surrendering unto him. So, and after that, four types of people who surrender to Krishna. Like four types of people, he says, like inquisitive, means who is looking for materialistic knowledge, and with desire of wealth, who wants money. He says four types of pious people, and distressed, who are very much distressed in their life and who are in search of knowledge. Krishna says these four are four types of Mahatmas. He says these are not like ordinary people, these are Mahatmas, because they are coming to Krishna by somehow or the other. One may say if they didn't get distressful situation, or if they don't need wealth, they would not have come. It doesn't matter if you come voluntarily, or if you come like by chance also, if you come by circumstances also, somehow or the other you came to Krishna. That's how you are great. So these are the four types of pious people. Krishna says the inquisitive, means who are looking for knowledge, and who is in search of absolute truth, means who tries to understand God, and who is distressed, due to this material nature, and due to material things, and also desire of wealth, who wants who is looking for material wealth. So so these kind of four pious people who come to Krishna. And he also describes about four types of impious people. So these four types of impious people include the persons, miscreants who are grossly foolish, means who blaspheme devotees and who doesn't understand, like they feel like somebody who is a devotee, or who is taking to spiritual path are like fools. No, like that's why Prabhupada wrote a book, right? Uh, who is crazy? No, like when Srila Prabhupada came to America and started preaching, and some people tagged the Hare Krishnas as crazy people, because they don't look after the, illicit sex, they don't go for enjoyment in the material world. They are only always giving up everything and just chanting Krishna, Krishna. So for a materialistic person, devotees seem to be like crazy people. No? So Krishna classifies them as miscreants. So who are grossly foolish and who are the lowest among men and whose knowledge is stolen by illusion of opposite sex, illusion of materialistic wealth. So these are the miscreants and who partake in atheistic nature of demons. These are the four types of people who doesn't surrender to Krishna, who means who doesn't take the path of bhakti, either personally or impersonally or somehow that they don't even acknowledge the presence of Krishna. That is the misfortune of these four kinds of people. So after explaining that, Krishna says about the demigod worship and impersonalism. Hmm? Impersonalists are the people who thinks that there is no personal form of Krishna, everything is Brahman. Means they they think that the creator and creator are the same, there is only one energy. That is such a childish mentality. Means if everything is one, how can this like a classification? Even in the materialistic society there are classifications. So somebody is a controller and somebody is a control, somebody is not a director, somebody is in a position of organizing or leading, and somebody who is in the position of following. So like even like that's why when you accept a guru means you are accepting, you are taking a humble position. That's how you come into bona fide spiritual path of personalism. But if you don't accept a guru and you just keep on speculating mentally, or meditating, or meditating yourself, or thinking that I can perfect by myself, so that is the impersonalistic way. So among Krishna says that, right, like four kinds of people come to me. If that among the four kinds of people, if by mistake, if they don't have proper direction, there is a chance that they get misdirected to some demigod, or worshipping impersonalist. So Krishna says demigod worshippers are less intelligent, and their faith is, and still their faith for them to worship the demigod is given by Krishna himself. No? Like one, you, will let you know how it will go. So and also the impersonalist, the still for impersonalist Krishna will not reveal himself. Let us see. So demigod worshippers, so men of small intelligence worship the demigods. So this like if you want a beautiful wife, one worships Durga Devi. If you want good health, he worships sun god. And if you want if you want uh, scholarship, mm, like good in good knowledge in subject matters, means good in education, he worships Saraswati. So they get these material benefits very quickly, and they are very temporary. But Krishna says that material benefit is actually coming from me. Without his sanction, any demigod cannot even sanction these results. So like why so like this person is looking for some looking after something, like this person is looking after a beautiful wife and he's getting a beautiful wife, and he wants good health and he's getting good health, and this person is looking for knowledge and he's getting knowledge. So they are getting what they wanted by worshipping demigods. Then why does Krishna classify them as less intelligent? Because Krishna classified them as less intelligent because of reason is shown here. Because the less intelligence and their faith is given by Krishna, they get the material benefit, but at the time of death, that benefit will be taken away, and whatever the endeavor they made in that lifetime is completely lost. And instead of worshipping the demigod, if one worships Krishna directly, he is going to get that material benefit anyhow. Means if he is looking for a beautiful wife, he's going to get a beautiful wife. If he is looking for a good health, he's going to get a good health. And if he's going to look after a nice scholarship, he's going to get a nice scholarship. But when one gets something from Krishna, it is going to be permanent. Means just by worshipping Krishna, he made so much spiritual progress, and his spiritual progress will not be lost at the time of death. So that is the difference. Means like this, if you have like if you say like $1,000, and either you can invest in something which can give quick results, or you can invest in something which it may take little delayed, but it is going to give permanent results. Where do you invest? An intelligent person will invest them in a in a in a in the option where he is going to get a permanent result. Hmm? Because like if you are going to lose everything at the time of death, whatever you have done, whatever devotion you have done, whatever efforts you have made, if you are going to lose at the time of death, and we only have like one valuable lifetime, and if we perfect our devotion in the lifetime, there is a chance that we are going to go back to Godhead. So by worshipping Krishna, if that is good for our devotional service, Krishna will give that material benefit, and at the same time he will again at the time of he will make us progress in our path of devotion, and at the end of lifetime there is a chance that we go back to Godhead if we completely perfect our life. But by worshipping these demigods, we will get the material benefit. But everything that we have done in this lifetime, whatever sacrifices, whatever the devotion that we have done to the demigods, will be completely lost at the time of death, including the benefit that we got from the that demigod. Here, this beautiful wife is taken away from that person at the time of death. His health is taken away at the time of death. His scholarship is taken away at the time of death. So that's why Krishna says these people are very less intelligent. After that, Krishna says how one can when one can progress from delusion created by Maya to devotion. Because Krishna knows past, present, and future, and Krishna and he says all the jivas are born into delusion. All the jivas are under the modes of nature, and and one who is sinless can do bhakti with determination. Means in order to do bhakti to Krishna, one needs to be sinless. That means if you do bhakti, your sins are vanquished, and if you are sinless only, then your bhakti will develop. So it's like what do you call, one thing depends on another, and that thing depends on, like, both are interdependent. And even if a person is looking for impersonal liberation, still by worshipping Krishna one can get that one also. So, and what is the ultimate, means ultimate thing a person can achieve is remembering Krishna at the time of death. That also Krishna gives in this section. Krishna says, the whole world doesn't know who am I. Like everybody in this material world is managed by the three modes of nature. When you are pious and when you are then you will be more of into doing more good things. Means you will do more of constructive things. When you are in mode of passion, you will do more of destructive and constructive things. Means you like more of sense enjoyment. When you are tamogun, you will be more of into ignorance. Means the activities that are like that will cover up our consciousness. But Krishna is always under above the modes of material nature. And Krishna says his Maya, which is composed of these three modes of material nature, it is very difficult to overcome. But one who is devoted to him can easily overcome it, and can cross it over beyond it. So, and the persons who are desiring for impersonal liberation, they can also take shelter of Krishna by just by worshipping Krishna. They can they can also easily attain Krishna. It is said that the Krishna can give liberation just like that, but Krishna doesn't give bhakti very easily, because through bhakti you are actually you'll get even the ability to control Krishna himself. So that's why Krishna doesn't give bhakti easily. Krishna can give mukti easily. So then what is the position of a perfect devotee? Perfect devotee is one who knows Adibhuta, the governing principle of the material nature. Those who knows Krishna is the governing principle of material manifestation, and those who knows Krishna is Adideva, means he is even the controller of demigods, and Adi Yajna, and those who knows that Krishna is the beneficiary or Krishna is the ultimate aim of all the yajnas, is to satisfy Krishna, is to worship Krishna, or is to develop devotion to Krishna. That kind of person can remember Krishna even at the time of death. So that is the essence of this chapter. This means a devotee can be able to do all these things. Like not even a devotee, but those who knows will automatic. Those who know all these three things will automatically become a devotee, and that kind of person can easily remember Krishna at the time of death and can easily get liberated. That's why he said, "Antya kalecha mameva smaran mukta kalevaram yaprayanti samadbhavam yatina satar samshaya." Means he attains the nature of Krishna. If he doesn't, if he is not eligible, like so Krishna killed some demons. Actually, they are not eligible, they are not qualified to go back to Godhead, because demoniac Krishna, the demoniac people are not allowed in the spiritual world. So what Krishna does, he gives them impersonal liberation. So impersonal liberation, now there are some mystic yogis who does austerities for thousands and thousands of years. Also nowadays there are some people who does severe austerities. They don't eat, they hardly eat. They did tapasya in the caves for many long hours. So like Krishna is giving liberation, impersonal liberation to the demons who were killed by him. Like then what, like we don't have to endure in like so this impersonal the persons who are looking for impersonal liberation should understand that what we are trying to get is the very least position among that we can get from Krishna, means in terms of liberation. So like those who knows the Krishna is everything, and Krishna is the ultimate beneficiary, and Krishna is the control of all the demigods, can easily remember Krishna at the time of death and can perfect their lives. So that will give to next chapter. Because Krishna here explained about Brahman, and Krishna also explained about different material manifestation, three modes of material nature and everything. Then Arjuna in the beginning of chapter, he asks what is Brahman and what is the self, what are the fruitive activities, and what is the material manifestation, how does Lord of sacrifice lives in the body, and how can people know Krishna at the time of death. Krishna says the indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is self. Action pertaining to the development of body is karma. So here in the first question, Krishna is answering, Brahman is something which is all pervasive and which is indestructible, and self is one. What is self? Self means the soul, that Krishna has already explained. And fruitive activities are some things which are related to karma. Like when one does karma, he does either good karma, he will get good result, and if he does bad karma, he will get bad results. And that's how he actually decides his future himself by performing the karma. And how does the Lord of sacrifices lives in the body? Brahman is indestructible living entity. Adhyatman, the living entity's nature to serve Krishna. So, and the karma is the activity that is its reaction which causes the development of material body. No, that Arjuna asked that question, right? Who is Jiva? Means the karma is the cause of the development of material body. Adibhuta is never changing the material manifestation. Adi Deva, he pervades all over the demigods, means the position of the Krishna. And Adi Yagya, the Krishna is the supreme soul, super soul within the everyone's heart, and is Adi Yagna, the Lord of all sacrifices. That we already discussed. So these are four kind of sacrifices, like one should perform, and four kinds of offerings. So these like in these are material terms, okay. So to attract Krishna at the time of death is the just by remembering Krishna. The when we perform bhakti, he will give us the ability to remember Krishna. He will like through the process of bhakti. No? Antyakalache mayo smaranukta kaleva. That the ability to remember Krishna at the time of death, the Krishna already explained, right? One who knows him actually, then he will get inclination to worship with devotion, and the devotee who worships him with full heart, with full understanding of Krishna, can easily remember Krishna. And because Krishna says he is situated in heart, from him comes the remembrance. Because if one does the devotional service properly and pleases Krishna and pleases Guru, then Krishna gives that intelligence to remember Krishna him at the time of death, and he can easily transcend this material nature and then go back to Krishna. So whatever state of being one remembers, when he quits the body, he will retain that without he will attain that nature. When one remembers is it is said, right? If he remembers is if he worship, if he meditates on the Pitrulokas, if he meditate on Sargaloka, or if you whatever the state of mind he develops at the time of death, that state means like wherever he wants to go, he can choose based on his consciousness at the time of death. So if one remembers Krishna at the time of death, he can go to Krishna without fail. So then how to think of Krishna? Like mentioned, the 10 ways of thinking of Krishna is Krishna is the knower of everything, and Krishna is the oldest of all, and Krishna is the smaller of smallest and larger of larger than Lord. Krishna is maintainer of everything, and Krishna is beyond the material conception. All the big planets float by Krishna's energy, and Krishna is inconceivable, and Krishna is a personal Krishna. Like Krishna is, one should know Krishna as a personal form. Then only you will have a reciprocation. Because when we say Brahman has no personal form, Brahman is all pervading, but we cannot have a personal reciprocation with Brahman, right? Like if you see, if like just for uh, you can only have personal relationship with a person, not with impersonal form. Okay. And Krishna, one should also, one can also remember Krishna in the form of luminous sun, means all pervasive and all powerful. And one can remember Krishna who is transcendental and beyond material nature. So these are the 10 simple ways one by which one can remember Krishna at the time of death. So like at the time of death, when a yogi who wherever he wants, he desires, and whatever the state of mind he develops, he will go to that kind of planet. Here it is like a impersonal yogi he might be going from this earthly planet to the moon planet, means a Sargaloka. So remember Krishna is at the time of death is bhakti. Lord is easy to obtain by one who remembers Krishna with him with devotion and constantly engaged in devotional service. And after attaining the abode of Krishna, who is that person is never going to come back into this temporary material nature. Krishna glorifies his supreme abode as what do you call, where there is no miseries, and which is permanent, eternal. One who goes there and he will never come back. So that's why Krishna advises Arjuna, just think of me in the form of Krishna. It means Krishna is advising Arjuna to think of his personal form. So this is the end of 8th chapter. So at the end, I didn't get a time to prepare this 17 to 28. What does he say? Krishna says in 17 to 28, he says about the material world versus spiritual world. So material world and the conditioned living entities manifest in the beginning of Brahma's day and unmanifest at the end of Brahma's day. Okay, means there is creation and destruction in this material world. If one attains the abode of Krishna, like the abode of he says, right, one can attain the abode of Krishna just by remembering him at the time of death. So, and then he explains about his abode in from verses from 20 to 22. He says like which is abode is eternal, indestructible, and it is self-illuminating. Means there is no necessity for you know, this Surya and Chandra light. Every object is self-illuminating, and he says like the bhakti process is the supreme, and the yogis and the jnanis who leaves the body in the path of light attains the impersonal liberation, and the karmis who leaves the body in the path of darkness will return back to this material world again. But a pure devotee who remembers Krishna at the time of death will go back to Krishna's abode at the after he leaves this material planet. So that is the essence of these two chapters, like where Krishna explains about different modes of nature, different types of people, and also different types of worshippers. Among different types of worshipper and who perfected their life, there you may go to impersonal or different planets, or you may go to Krishna Loka. So Krishna says, think of by just by meditating on or just by performing devotional service to his personal form, one can attain the perfection of human form of life. What is the perfection of human form of life? Is to go back to Godhead, means to go back to Krishna Loka, which is eternal, infallible. So that is all for today. If you have any questions or anything that we can discuss now.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like Krishna says, like in that he explains about the transcendental form of Brahman, right? So he addresses as a his body is transcendental. I mean, like he addresses as something different as per the PPT what you have shown, but it is the same. It is the form of another form of Krishna only, no?
No, it is formless form of Krishna. Means it is a energy, like it is the
Brahman is
expansion.
another form of Krishna only, right?
Yeah, means like it is impersonal form. See, like when he says he
Hello?
is, are you able
Yes.
to hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, now I can hear.
It is said your connection is unstable. Okay, it Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, worship him, like that. Many times he says, it
Yes.
means like he describes he about Krishna, like about his personal form in the previous words, and in what words he says you should worship him, like that. So you have to read Bhagavad Gita in sequence so that you will be able to understand. Krishna says Brahman when describing characteristics of Brahman, he says this Brahman is effulgence coming from me, and this Brahman has so and so characters. So then you can worship him, like that. He says like this. So it is not
Yeah, yeah.
like he's
That's what.
somebody who is separate.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Prabhuji. Yeah, it is his form only. He's
Yeah, his
Brahman
form,
is
but
his form only. Yeah, that's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
just
Yeah.
like like if you say like a king is there, huh? a king a king's energy is spread, king's power is spread all over the kingdom. But king will be more pleased, and king relationship with king will be more personal in his palace with his kids, with his children, with his even with his servants, even with his ministers also, right? Not with somebody who is in the law any corner of the kingdom. But the king's power is spread all over the universe. In the same way, but if you want to develop a relationship with uh, king, it is just by like we should not take king's example more, no, like to the point here. I'm just giving analogy, okay? But king will be more pleased when you have a personal relationship with him, when you serve him personally, or when you do service to him in such a way that king is interested to see you. Sometimes we see, right, some person does a great job, president personally comes and visits him, like that. So just by developing a relationship with the personal form, everything can be achieved. The something what we can achieve through Brahman, so what we can achieve through Paramatma, everything can be achieved by worshipping Krishna in his personal form. You understood, right? Okay. Any more?
Understood.
Prabhu?
Prabhu, in the question answer section, there was a question what
Mhm.
how to remember Krishna to reach him, something like that. I just want to ask a question about that.
Yes, Prabhu. What is it? How to remember Krishna at the time of death?
Yeah. So
Just by yes.
the answers given are they are also spoken in Bhagavad Gita, right? Prabhu? Those answers.
Yeah, these are all given from Bhagavad Gita, because if you meditate like about like if you have this perfect knowledge of all these 10 aspects, then you will be able to easily remember Krishna at the time of death.
Okay.
So at the time of
There
death,
is-
what you will think? For example, oh, I'm going through this. Who will take care of this? Oh, my family. I'm going to die. Who will take care of my family? Or who will take care of that thing? This thing. By that
Right.
can be easily refuted by knowing that Krishna is maintainer of everybody, everything. And I don't know which loka I'm going to go, and who will take care of me there. Then that can be refuted by knowing that Krishna, all big planets are floating by Krishna's energy only, and Krishna is smaller than smallest. Like Krishna is knower of everything. Krishna knows everything. So if you have perfect knowledge about these things, you can easily remember Krishna at the time of death.
Oh, there is one answer in another question. I think one of the slides, which talks about chanting Om and some other thing is there.
That chanting Om is like this is like mostly like a impersonal, Prabhu.
Impersonal form. That's what I saw that,
Impersonal.
and
So
but
that's
it's also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. That's why I was just seeing that. I
this
wanted
one,
to know.
right?
Let's go last in the last slide. Sorry. Keep going to.
Here, chant
Yeah.
Om.
Yeah.
So
It is also there. That's what I was.
describe the practice of yogi siddhi.
Okay.
This,
This is the
so
practice
this
of
I showed you, right? This is the impersonalist yogi.
Okay.
That they chant Om, they perform different
Okay.
asanas, they kumbhaka, raichaka, like they
Right.
they meditate on 6 chakras, and then they come to Brahma Kapha, Brahma Randra, and then
Yeah, and
from
then
there
they
they
release
transcend
the
to
body. Yeah.
transcend to the higher planets, whichever loka they want to go.
Yeah. Krishna talks about all this in that particular chapter. Just Okay, Prabhu. Got it. That's for impersonal realization.
Yes.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Any more, Prabhu? Anything?
No, Prabhu. That's it.
Okay.
Prabhu,
From my
so we
side.
covered till which chapter now?
We covered 7th and 8th chapters, Prabhu, today.
7th and 8th. Okay. Okay.
We'll cover remaining chapters in the next class. Maybe.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवत गीता की जय, श्रील
Yeah.
प्रभुपाद की जय,
Sure,
अनंत
Prabhupada.
कोटि
Yes.
वैष्णव वृंद की जय.
Jai.